So what is newly added here is that this multi-modal shipment in which at least one leg involves transport by ship. So what do you mean by multi-modal shipment? And that means in that shipment I'm using various modes of transport. So to certain distance I'm using the shipment transportation by road. To certain distance I'm using transport by vessels. To the remaining part of the distance I'm using the shipment transportation by air. Transportation by air. Are you following me? అంటే I've used the road transportation, I've used the sea waters transportation, I've used the air, right? So in a single shipment, if you are using various types of, right, various types of uh, modes of transportation, that is what we call multimodal transshipment. But at least one leg should be transported by ship. That is newly added to this provision. So there is no change in the validity period. That validity remains to be same. Next. Manner of issuing e-invoicing. Right. So actually, under the GST Act, there is no mandatory provision that invoice should be issued electronically only. It's not mandatory. You can even issue the invoice manually. You can even issue the invoices manually. But now the department making such a provisions, at least to some suppliers, it is making mandatory that issuing the invoice electronically. Now the department is moving towards e-invoicing system, but gradually it becomes mandatory to all the people. But at present, it was not mandatory to all the people, ma. It was not mandatory to all the people. It is now mandatory only to those companies whose turnover exceeded 500 crores. Whose turnover exceeded 500 crores. For them only e-invoicing is mandatory. E-invoicing is mandatory. Of course, the turnover limits has not been mentioned in the amendment. I'm telling you only for your general knowledge purpose. This is a new concept of e-invoicing, right? So, sub-rule 4 has been inserted to rule number 48, provide that e-invoice shall be prepared by the notified classes of registered person on the recommendations of the GST Council. On the recommendations of the GST Council. By including such particulars contained in the form number GST INV01. After obtaining IRN, invoice reference number, by uploading information contained therein in the GST electronic portal. Right. Now, invoice must be prepared duplicate with respect to services and two copies. Two copies. Original is for the recipient, duplicate is for the supplier, and triplicate in respect of the goods. Original is for the recipient, duplicate copy is for the transporter, and triplicate copy is for the supplier. Right? E-invoicing also same provisions. Manual invoices also same provisions. Right? Two copies for services, three copies for goods. And we have given with some registration portals from which we can generate that e-invoicing. We can prepare the e-invoices. Totally 10 portals is given to us. e-invoice1.gst.gov.in, e-invoice2.gst.gov.in. So like that, totally 10 portals given to us. Let us see one portal for the general knowledge purpose. What happens? Just now I've seen. Before the starting of the class, I've seen already. There it is. So goods and services tax, e-invoice system, right? So you can see here, in this portal, you can see that taxpayers having the turnover more than 500 crores but not enabled for e-invoicing can register voluntarily using these options. And the clearly evidence that this is applicable only for the taxpayers who are having the turnover more than 500 crores. Okay, ma. Right. This is a software where you can see the e-invoicing proceedings and everything. Right. So like this, you have given with the 10 invoicing portals. Using any of this, you have to first register yourself, right? Portal login, e-invoice enablement. After you get registered with this particular site, then you will get the login credentials. With that login credentials, you have to log in into this website and then you can prepare e-invoices. You can prepare e-invoices. Clear, everyone? Right. Let's come back. Yes. Next. So for the timing in the amendment, what they said, sir, rule number 46 and 49 of the CGST rules 2017 have been amended to provide that the government may by notification on the recommendations of the GST Council, subject to such conditions and restrictions as mentioned therein, specified that the tax invoice or bill of supply shall have a QR code, quick reference code. That's a new provision. Next. Restriction on furnishing of information in Part A of Form GST EWB 01. Part A of Form GST EWB 01, E-way bill. So generally E-way bill contains two parts, ma. E-way bill contains two parts. Part A, Part B. Part A has to be prepared by the person who generated that E-way bill, either consignor or consignee, right? In case if both neither the consignor nor consignee, neither the consignor nor consignee generated this e-way bill when there is a movement of the goods. Now it is the responsibility of the transporter to generate e-way bill and the transporter will fill up the part A. So generally the part A details will be filled up by the consignor or consignee. Generally, exceptional cases transporter, right? And after the consignor filling the details in the part A of the form GST EWB 01, that e-way bill will be assigned to transporter. Transporter will fill the details of part B, which contains the details of vehicle details. Vehicle registration number, chassis number, route map, everything will be there in the part B. Part B, this is a general provision. But now we have some restrictions on furnishing the information in part A. Why restrictions? Sir, whenever you are entering into transactions with some persons, notified persons, then you are not entitled to fill the details in part A of form GST EWB 01. Sir, who are that persons? Look at there. No person including a consignor or consignee, transporter or an e-commerce operator or a courier agency shall not be allowed to furnish the information in part A of form GST EWB 01 in respect of the following registered persons, whereas a supplier or as a recipient, whether as a supplier or as a recipient. And who are that persons, ma? A person who opted for composition scheme or opted for optional rate scheme. Optional rate scheme notification number 2 bar 2019. What is this? Optional rate scheme. Okay, now, right, has not furnished the statement for the payment of self-assessment tax for 2 consecutive quarters. Sir, you are entered into a contract with the composition taxpayer, ma. You need to move the goods from your premises to composition taxpayer. You need to generate the e-way bill, and in that part A details you have to be filled up. But that composition taxpayer has not filed the statement of the self-assessment tax for the consecutive 2 quarters, and then there is some a kind of disallowance, some default done by the composition taxpayer with whom you are entered into a transaction. Now you are not entitled to fill up the part A details of EWB 01. Or a person paying tax under regular scheme has not furnished the returns for 2 consecutive months, or a person paying the tax under regular scheme has not been furnished GSTR 1 for any 2 months or quarters as the case may be. And literally speaking, you are entering into the transactions with some defaulted people. That is why there is some restrictions on you. That is why there is some restrictions on you regarding that filling the details of part A of the form GST EWB 01. Next. However, if enough reasons are provided by you, if enough reasons are provided by you, right, you file an application in a prescribed form, shown sufficient cause, and with the reasons recorded to be recorded in writing. If whatever the information or reasons provided by you, if that commissioner satisfied, then he will allow you to fill up the details of part A of form GST. That is what explained here. Okay, ma'am. Next, payment of tax. Amendments in Rule number 87 of the CGST rules prescribing the provisions relating to electronic cash ledger. So the second proviso to sub-rule 2, which gave an option to pay person supplying online information database access or retrieval services, OIDAR services, supplying online information data access or retrieval services from a place outside the India, and the supplier is from outside the India, to a non-taxable online recipient, to a non-taxable online recipient, right? So to generate the challan through board's payment system, namely electronic accounting system in excise and service tax, has been omitted. Whoever providing the OIDAR services, online information or database access. See, if you take the examples of Amazon, right? Amazon Prime you have taken, like the Hotstar plus Disney Prime you have taken, or you can take in the Prime of Kindle, where you can access through so many books, e-books. So you are accessing the online information. If you take in the subscription of Hotstar plus Disney by paying 399 rupees per annum for every year, now you can access whatever the contents in that particular app, all the movies you can see, all the web shows you can watch, all the ebooks, some ebooks will also be provided, right, ma? So these people are said to be the services supplier of OIDAR services. Here the supplier is from outside the India, the recipient is within the India, non-taxable online recipient. Earlier there is a provision that the tax challan should be generated through the board payment system, namely the electronic accounting system, but now this has been omitted. This has been omitted. Next. Sub-rule 9 provided that any amount deducted under section 51 are collected under section 52 under TDS and TCS provisions. 51, 52 deals with TDS and TCS provisions in GST, which is not there at CA inter syllabus, which is not there at CA inter syllabus. That will be covered in CA final syllabus, right? You can see that statutory updations applicable for November 2020, right? I'll show you. Here you can look this statutory guidelines, study guidelines for indirect taxes November 2020 exams. Study guidelines. So what were the topics excluded from the syllabus? It's given there in this particular information, ma'am. So list of topic wise exclusions from the syllabus. from the syllabus, which is not applicable for November 2020 exams. So you must be make a note of it. Right there, I'll show you. Yeah, here you can see payment of tax, TDS and TCS have been omitted for CA inter syllabus. They will be covered in your CA final syllabus. Clear, everyone? Come back. So amount deducted under section 51 are collected under section 52, TDS section 51, TCS under section 52, and claimed in form number GSTR 02 by the registered taxable person from whom the said amount was deducted, as the case may be, or collected, shall be credited to his electronic cash ledger. Shall be credited to his electronic cash ledger అంటే డిపాజిట్ అవుతుంది అన్నట్టుది. మన ఎలక్ట్రానిక్ క్రెడిట్ లెజర్ కి క్రెడిట్స్ అంటే డిపాజిట్స్, డెబిట్ ఐటమ్స్ అంటే యూటిలైజేషన్స్ ఫర్ ద పేమెంట్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ అవుట్పుట్ ట్యాక్స్, ఇంట్రెస్ట్, పెనాల్టీ, లేట్ ఫీస్, ఎవ్రీథింగ్. ఓకేనా? నెక్స్ట్, refund of tax that has been paid wrongly or in excess by utilizing input tax credit. So whenever you have paid the tax in excess wrongly, or refund of tax that has been paid wrongly or in excess by utilizing input tax credit, what will happen, sir? That amount will be created to your electronic credit ledger, sir. That amount will be created to your electronic credit ledger. Right, whatever the amount you have paid in excess, let us assume that you are supposed to pay only 1 lakh, but you have paid 1,20,000. Whatever the excess amount paid by you, if it is with a genuine reason, yes, that particular supplier has paid excessively, then the department found it is admissible, then that amount will be credited to your electronic credit ledger. Whatever the excess tax paid by you, you can take it as input tax credit. Clear, ma? So simply you can look at this point. If the department found it admissible, that will be created to your electronic credit ledger. Clear? Next, returns. Person supplying OIDAR services not required to furnish the annual return and a reconciliation statement. Right? Generally, the people who are subject to TDS and TCS, input service distributor, casual taxable persons, non-resident taxable persons, these people are not required to filing the annual returns. Other than these suppliers, all other suppliers should file annual return. Now, for this list, OIDR services also added now. So generally, the suppliers who deduct the TDS and TCS, right, to whom section 51 and 52 provisions are applicable, TDS director, TCS collector, and input service distributor, casual taxable persons, non-resident taxable persons. For these people, annual return, filing of annual return is not mandatory. Now, in that case, not mandatory cases, Loki, we have seen a new addition, that is the suppliers who are providing OIDA or services. For them also, filing of annual return is not mandatory. Filing of annual return is not mandatory. Okay, now. Next. Form number GSTR 3B to be treated as a return furnished under section 39 of the CGST Act, and it should be treated as GSTR 3. Since inception, the same is happening. Since 1st July 2017, actually, when it comes to the monthly returns, it is GSTR 123. It is GSTR 123. One has to file GSTR 1 outward supplies return, GSTR 2 inward supplies return, and GSTR 3 is a consolidated return. GSTR 3 is a consolidated return. But in the place of GSTR 3, the department suggested, GST Council suggested to file GSTR 3B. GSTR 3B. And this provision has been deferred so many times. Even again, it has been deferred. You can see here, The filing of GSTR 3 has been deferred by the GST Council, right? Now, whoever filed the GSTR 3B, they are not required to file the GSTR 3 again, right? You can see here, where a return in GSTR 3B is furnished by a person, then such person shall not be required to furnish the return in form number GSTR 3. Whatever the GSTR 3B filed by you, that itself will be assumed as GSTR 3. Clear, everyone? Right. So that's the end of the GST amendments. Now you are open to ask any doubts from this amendments class. Yes, already we got a doubt here from Sharad Sai. Sir, if there no need of turnover limit, then how we have to find out for which entity this will be mandatory in online form? The turnover will be mentioned, ma. Turnover will be mentioned, don't worry. Right, in that amendment that was not mentioned, but in the act that was mentioned, you have already seen in that particular portal now, 500 crores exceeding turnover 500 crores. Next, Rajashekhar, yes ma, I've given you audio access, tell me.
Sir, ITC chapter point number 1 case B, sir.
ITC chapter point number 1 case B. Okay, ITC chapter, this is a point number 1 case B, this one ma,
Sir.
this one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the intent is here, earlier the provision is that 20% of the eligible input tax credit you can avail,
Okay.
right? Now this provision reduce it to 10%. You can just look into that illustration, you will get it clarity. You can see here in the illustration number 1, total 100 invoices given by the suppliers to you. Now that suppliers have to upload 100 invoices in their GSTR 1, right? In their GSTR
Yes,
1s. Assuming that they have uploaded only 80 invoices and the invoice input tax credit involving in that 80 invoices is 6 lakhs. So the entire 6 lakhs you can claim it as input tax credit, right? Whenever the supplier has filed a GSTR 1, the supplier shown your invoices in GSTR 1, the credit involving in that invoices will be shown as credit in your GSTR 2A. Auto populate అవుతుందమ్మా GSTR 2A. Auto populate అవుతుంది in your dashboard. So whatever the credit visible there in GSTR 2A, which is auto populated soon after the supplier has filed GSTR 1, to that extent you can claim input tax credit fully. Whatever reflecting in GSTR 2A, the entire amount of input tax you can claim it as credit fully, right? Generally what is reflecting in GSTR 2A is nothing but the invoices uploaded by the supplier in GSTR 1. So 80 invoices he was uploaded in GSTR 1. The input tax credit involving in that 80 invoices is 6 lakhs. So 6 lakhs fully you can claim it as credit. 20 invoices not uploaded by your suppliers in their GSTR 1s. The credit involving in the 20 invoices 4 lakhs. The credit involving in that 20 invoices 4 lakhs. Now, can I avail the entire 4 lakhs as credit? No. The maximum credit you can avail is 10% of eligible credit. What do you mean by eligible credit? 6 lakhs. The credit attributable to uploaded invoices. What is uploaded invoice? 80 invoices. Right? In relation to what is the credit attributable? 6 lakhs. So this 6 lakhs should be treated as eligible credit. In that eligible credit, maximum 10% you can avail with respect to the invoices not uploaded by your suppliers. So 6 lakhs into 10% comes to 60,000 rupees.
60,000, sir.
Right. But whereas if the 10% of eligible credit exceeds the actual credit, then the credit should be restricted to actual credit. And the meaning, in this illustration, the same point explained. 85 invoices uploaded in GSTR 1, and the amount of input tax credit involved in that 85 invoices, 9,50,000. So when these 85 invoices uploaded in GSTR 1 and filed by the supplier, immediately what happens? That credit will be reflected in your GSTR 2A. That entire 9,50,000 you can avail it as credit. 15 invoices not uploaded, the credit involving in that 15 invoices is 50,000 rupees. Sir, here also can I apply the provisions of 10% of eligible input tax credit? Apply 9.5 lakhs into 10 percentage, you'll get 95,000. Sir, can I claim this 95,000 as credit? No. What is the actual credit attributable to invoices not uploaded? 50,000. So the maximum credit you can avail is only 50,000, not 95,000. Okay, ma'am?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Sir, every month input tax credit attributable to exempted supply should be added to output tax liability, or only else the only period in which we had made exclusive exempted. No, only period for which you made exempted supplies, ma'am. Only period for which you made exempted supplies, that amount will be added to the input tax, that output tax liability, not every month. Every month, whatever the credit attributable to exempted supplies, that is not allowed. You just simply ignore that credit. You just simply ignore that credit, right? Next, the amendment relating to the payment of tax OIDAR services, they need not generate the challans through the GST common portal. See, whenever, so the generation of challan through electronic accounting systems, that provision has been omitted. That's the amendment. Next, now when it comes to the examination preparation and examination tips, so as I told you in many times in my classes, of course, some of you are not my students. Let me tell you again. I can tell you the important chapters, or the presentation tips, everything you can see here. Right. So first, when it comes to the income tax mark, obviously the first choice of every person is that 5 heads of income, especially PGBP capital gains. And for this attempt, you can also take income from house property. These 3 heads compulsorily you have to prepare, ma. PGBP capital gains, house property compulsory. Sir, PGBP capital gains compulsory, we know, because very important. Why house property? Why I am insisting house property is because of the amendment of 2 self-occupied house properties. Now the assessee is entitled to claim self-occupation benefit to 2 properties. Earlier the provision is only 1 property can be claimed as self-occupation. Now 2 properties we can claim as self-occupied properties. So that question we have done, Mr. Ganesh, that question you can expect in the main exam, where there are 3 self-occupied properties is given, among which 2 should be treated as self-occupied, 1 should be treated as deemed to be let out. 3 options we have seen right now. Yes. So that amendment you will definitely get a question mark. That is why I made income from house properties most important rather than salaries and other sources. So out of the 5 heads of income, you need to prepare these 3 heads of income for sure, compulsory with 100%. effectiveness, and 100% confidence on all these three chapters, three heads of income for sure. Okay, now just a second. In between, we have a doubt. In case EMI provided by third party, the transaction value should be taken as zero. Yes, correct. Next, after the five heads of income, right? See, for doing the problems on total income problem, you must have the knowledge of five heads. Among that five heads, at least 3 to 4 heads will be covered. You must have the knowledge of five heads, right now. And then you must have the knowledge of chapter 6A reductions, compulsory. For every total income problem, chapter 6A reductions will be definitely asked. Chapter 6A reductions will be definitely asked. Especially amendments. Especially amendments will be touched in this total income problems. There is one more doubt asked by the student. Let me explain that first. I'll come back to this. Sir, if I have two self-occupied properties and one unoccupied property, so that means among these three, only two should be treated as self-occupied. That other one should be treated as deemed to be let out. Deemed to be let out. Because the unoccupied property tax treatment is on par with the self-occupied property. Same tax provisions holds good. Clear? Next. So for doing the total income problems, you must have the knowledge of five heads. You must have the knowledge of chapter 6A reductions. You must have the knowledge of amendments. Amendments for definitely, right? And next, set off and carry forward of losses. This chapter is also very important, ma. This chapter is also very important, right? Especially we can expect a direct question from this chapter. A direct question from this chapter for at least 5 marks. Very important chapter. And there is some small chapters like advanced tax and interest, advanced tax and interest, return of income, TDS and TCS. Now, among these three, you should more focus on TDS and TCS at least this attempt. You should put more focus on this TDS and TCS chapter. Why? Because we have number of amendments from this TDS and TCS chapter. Right, with respect to amendments, with respect to changes in threshold limits, changes in the TDS rates, some new sections added like 194 IB, 194 N, 194 M, right now. Some new sections added, some changes in the threshold limits, some changes in the TDS rates. For this attempt, TDS and TCS is a very important chapter. No one should leave this chapter. Very important. In the last attempt, November 2019, if you observe, you got a questions from return of income. Now, this attempt, you can expect the questions from TDS and TCS. Very important. Right, ma'am? Next. When it comes to GST, the first and foremost, the most important chapter I can say, time and value of supply. Time and value of supply. Where you can expect two questions. You can expect two questions at least for 5 marks each. 5 marks each. From time of supply you can expect one question. From value of supply you can expect one question. Time of supply one question, value of supply one question. Right, ma? Worst scenario, at least one question will be given. At least one question will be given among this chapter. Worst scenario. Best case scenario, you can expect two questions. You can expect two questions. The second part, you must have 100% knowledge on composition scheme, and this optional rate scheme. Among this, one question you can get compulsory for 5 marks. One question compulsory for 5 marks. Composition scheme, optional rate scheme. Especially, at least worst scenario, if you take, you will take some MCQs. You will get some MCQs regarding the threshold limits, regarding the threshold limits, regarding the threshold limits applicable to various states. Right, ma? In GST, this definition of aggregate turnover is very important. Definition of aggregate turnover is very important. One must know what is aggregate turnover, how to calculate it, what are the inclusions to aggregate turnover, what are the exclusions to the aggregate turnover. You should be very careful about the same aggregate turnover. Are you following, ma? Right? So aggregate turnover generally we will calculate for verifying whether a person is liable for registration or not, whether a person eligible for composition scheme or optional scheme or not, optional rate scheme or not. These are the two main purposes for which we will find out aggregate turnover. And this aggregate turnover limits are different for different category of persons. Different for different category of persons. Are you following, ma'am? So this definition is very important. One should not forget about the same. Clear now? And after that, we can expect one question regarding composite and or mixed supplies. Composite or mixed supplies. But the probability is very less, but yet another very important topic I can say. Composite or mixed supplies. You will give a practical question and decides at what rate the supplies are taxable, right? When it comes to the composite supplies, right, the principal supply, whatever the tax rate applicable to the principal supply, the tax rate is applicable to the entire value of supply. When it comes to the mixed supplies, among the given supplies, the highest rate of tax should be applied for all the supplies. So like that, the provisions are there. You must be very careful. Next, I can say input tax credit also very important chapter, as we have seen some very important amendments. Input tax credit. How can I forget this? Input tax credit. One question compulsory you will get, like this 10 percentage attributable credit is there now. Just now we have seen one problem. Two illustrations given in the ICI material. Ma. You just go through that entire two illustrations which are very important. The two illustrations. Right, ma? So input tax credit. Illustration number 1, Mr. Vijay. Illustration number 2, Mr. Ajay. Right? So very important, input tax credit. We can expect at least one question for 5 marks. See, taxation paper. When it comes to taxation paper, amendment plays key role. 10 to 15 marks you can expect from amendments. Definitely. Right, ma? Amendments will ask you in total income problems. Amendments ask you like a separate question. Amendments ask you like a separate question from house property. Like this, you can expect amendments. In chapter 6 reductions also, you have some new sections like 80EEA, 80EEB, some amendments relating to 80TTA, TDB, you know, like, so you must be very careful because the institute expect, the student should get updated with the all the amendments. Only updated students needed by the institute, not the outdated students. Clear, everyone? And my suggestion is to, whenever you take the taxation paper, ma, right, you will be given with two separate answer sheets, one for the GST, one for the income tax, and one OMR sheet will be given for the MCQs. For the MCQs. So everyone will start with the total income problems first, but it's a lengthy problem, as every one of you knows. If the problem is simple and there is no complications involved in the problem, okay, go ahead with the total income problem first. But if there is any complications involving, if you feel that it takes time, don't start with the total income problem. Because what happens is if you start with the total income problems, the problem will take time, 30 minutes, 40 minutes till you are doing total income problem. And by the time you realize that, okay, 30 minutes time lapsed, 40 minutes time completed, you will get panic. Oh my goodness, I need to do almost 86 marks within a time span of 2 hours or 2 hours 10 minutes. You will get panic, and whatever the confidence you have might gone lost. So that is why don't do the lengthy problems first. Do the short problems where you can score more marks. Are the problems in which you got 100% confidence, okay, this problem I can do very easily, very quickly. Do that first problems. In the first 1 hour, what you need to do is, you need to complete at least 35 to 40 marks paper, at least 35 or even 30 marks paper, no issues. But that 30 marks, 100% confident. Okay, out of this 30, 29 marks I can get scoring very easily. So first select the 30 marks questions, do that questions. Are you following, ma? So thereby, by the end of the 1 hour, you'll get some confidence. Okay, 30 marks I've already completed. 35 marks I've already completed. Out of which I can easily score 30 marks. For the next 2 hours, for the next 2 hours, if you get 10 marks, you qualify the paper. For the next 2 hours, if you get 20 marks, aggregate satisfied. For the next 2 hours, if you at least score 30, you get exemption. Objective satisfied. Are you following now? So first 1 hour decides your fate. First 1 hour of the exam. This rule is not applicable, not only applicable to taxation, ma. You can apply this rule to any paper. The first 1 hour of the exam decides your fate. In the first 1 hour, even if you complete 30 marks, make sure that out of 30, 29 you will get. So 100% confident questions, first you have to do in the first 1 hour. First 1 hour. Whereby it will give you some boost up, your encouragement, motivation, encouragement. You will get some confidence. Okay, 30 marks paper completed, in which I can score 29 marks for sure, 28 marks for sure. Okay, for the rest 2 hours, I can score comfortably 30 marks minimum, then I'll be an exempted candidate. Clear, everyone? Right? So if you struck up with the total income problem in the first 1 hour itself, the pressure build up on your mind. The time is very less. The question to be attempted is more. 80 plus marks you need to attempt within 2 hours. The pressure build up on your mind, and in that pressure, what will happen, sir? Whatever you studied since last 3 months, all goes vain, in vain. Are you following, ma? Right? And whenever you're presenting the answer, ma, especially when it comes to total income problems, what the majority of the students will do is some mistakes, like they will start the answer first some main answer, then working notes, then main answer, then working notes. Not like that. You should not do like that. First of all, you should start like this: calculation of total income, name of the assessee, then for the previous year, for which previous year you are doing, previous year 1920, assessment year 2021. So like this, first you must have headings like this. Now then draw a table with the 3 columns. Particulars, amount in rupees, amount in rupees. So first, income from salaries. But don't write shortcuts. Don't write shortcuts. You need to write incomplete, in fully. Income from salaries. Don't write IFS, IHP, PGBP. You have to write it fully, ma. Income from salaries, income from house properties. I'm writing shortcuts here only for easy, quick completion of the explanation. You need to write it fully in the main exam. Income from salaries, income from house property, PGBP, capital gains, income from other sources. So that will gives you gross total income, then minus chapter 6A deductions, then that will gives you total income. That will gives you total income. So this is the main answer. And whenever there is a working notes required for any head of income for chapter 6A deductions, do it in the working notes. After the completion of main answer, do the working notes. First prepare the statement like this, right? First prepare the statement like this and left that amount column empty. Whenever you completed working notes, assume that the total income problems comprising comprising the provisions of income from salaries. So income from salaries should calculate in working notes number 1, comprising the provisions of capital gains. So working notes number 2, other sources, working notes number 3, and for chapter 6 reductions, working notes number 4. Like this, you need to give the reference of working notes, do the notes in the working notes, do all the calculations in working notes. After the completion of working notes, take the final figure and write here in the outer column amount. This is the best way of presenting the total income problem answer. Don't unnecessarily mingle the main answer with the working notes. The valuationer will get confused. What is working notes and what is main answer? So the first should be the main answer. So this provision, this format is not only applicable for total income problems, even if you are doing PGBP problem, when you are finding out the business income, first have the format. So net profit as per the profit and loss and account, right? Add expenses debited to profit and loss account, which is not allowed as deduction, disallowed. Then add incomes which are not credited to profit and loss account, which are taxable under PGBP, less expenses eligible for deduction but not debited to profit and loss account, less incomes credited to profit and loss account but taxable under other heads. Like this, first have the main format. Any working notes required like depreciation, any working notes required for any kind of adjustments, do that separately after the main presentation. Clear everyone? Right, ma? So this is about the examination tips and presentations, things, everything. And if you want to know anything, you can ask me, Mina. If you want to know anything from me, you can ask me. So if you have any doubts at any time, right, till that last minute you are entering into the main exam, you can ask me, ma. Right? This is my Telegram ID @CA Sambashiva. You might know already. You might know already. This is my mail ID, CA Sambashiva. You can ping your doubts to this Telegram ID, where I can respond as soon as possible. See, if I am busy, uh, within few hours I will respond. Right? If I am free, then I will respond immediately, right? Most probably on the same day. Most probably on the same day. At the end of the day, I will respond to your queries and doubts. Okay, ma. So anything else you want to know from me? So I wish you very all the best to all of you, right? So very all the best for your CA Inter November 2020 attempt. I wish to see all of you in CA final, right? The second time, the next time which we are going to meet at the CA final level classes. Clear, ma?